Hey, what is good everybody? It's that one camera guy back at again with another video for you. I wanted to go ahead and share my experience shooting with two different lenses, the Sony 55-210 compared to the Sony 70-200 f4. I know these two lenses are very interesting because if you're just starting out, you're trying to figure out which lens I should buy. Now, one of these lenses retails for about $300 or so, and that's the 55-210. I think it has an aperture, a variable aperture between 4.5 to 6.3. So it's not really ideal for low light shooting. I think we can all agree on that. But we also have this other lens, the 70-200 f4, which is sort of your standard telephoto lens or long telephoto lens that most people have. The 70-200 f4 retails for about $1,200 to $1,300 US. But your question might be, what's the difference between these two lenses? Now, if you're just starting in photography, the two biggest difference between these have to do with their aperture value. The 70-200 f4 lens has a constant aperture of f4. It's not going to change when you zoom in or zoom out. The brightness will stay consistent throughout the range. Versus the 55-210, as you zoom it out, the aperture will change and it'll get brighter or darker depending on the scene. Now, before I went out to go shoot, I had my own predictions about the lens. I've used the 55-210 before. It's not a terrible lens to start off with, especially if you're on a budget. So let's say, for example, you have the 6000 or the 6500 and you want a starting telephoto lens, you can still use the 55-210. I know for a fact it's not going to be the sharpest lens out there, but at least you have a telephoto lens if you're going to be shooting maybe sports or athletics during the day. So one thing I really like about the 70-200 versus the 70-200 f2.8, so for example, maybe you're deciding should you get the f2.8 or the f4, just know price-wise, this is almost $1,000 more than the f4 model. And you might be saying, well, why should I get one or the other? One really cool benefit of the f4 is the fact that it's a lot lighter than the 70-200. So if you want to keep your bag light and you know that most of your photography is going to be during the daytime, the f4 is great. Now, granted, it can shoot in some low light environments. It just depends on what you're doing, but I think it's not bad for what it can do. When I went to go shoot track and field, my main objective was just to see how good one would perform in terms of image quality. That was pretty much it. So I went ahead and brought the Sony Alpha 6500 with me. It's a camera that I really like. I haven't used it a whole lot, but I do use it for video, and I've got the really cool small rig cage attached to this, so it really comes in handy. So I used the 55-210 as well as the 70-200 f4, and I tried to shoot very similar events. Now, you're going to go over some of the images so you can see the differences between the two. And you obviously are going to notice that there's going to be some ghosting and some slight softness in the 55-210, whereas with the 70-200 f4, if you look at the images, you're going to see that they're pretty sharp for the most part. I would say they're considerably sharp. Now, if you're just starting out and you can't afford a 70-200 f4, don't worry, you can still get away with the 55-210. Just do your best to acquire the photo as sharp as you can, and then go ahead and drop a little bit of sharpening inside of your post program like Lightroom or Adobe, whatever happens to be that program you choose to use. Just add a little bit of sharpening to it, and you can definitely correct some of the imperfections of that lens. So there you go, that's the difference between the two lenses. I know the 55-210 gets a bad rap. You might be saying, well, of course I'm gonna get the 70-200, but not everyone can go ahead and budget for a better lens. What you should practice is your technique and how to get the most out of your images, and also practice your editing. Add a little bit of sharpness, contrast, whatever it needs to be to enhance the image. I know we get so obsessed over sharpness and detail and going one-to-one in our images, but sometimes capturing the photo is more important than worrying about the sharpness all the time. And if you're just starting, don't feel inclined to jump over to the 70-200 anytime soon if you can't. Practice your technique, get better with it. Folks, if you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a like, subscribe, and check out my other content. And with that said, I'm your host, that one camera guy, and I'll catch you on the next video. Peace.
I left my heart in California. I let it go deep into the blue. I could be happy in California. I would be fine with just me and you. Now don't